Alright, welcome back, Vikings. This is your tutorial on how to complete your personal collage project. Alright, let's get into it. I mean, lower my volume, I'm probably way too loud. There we go. Alright, let's get into it. What are we going to learn? We're going to learn how to use our Google image search. We're going to set up photop.com's canvas. We're going to copy and paste some images from Google image search into our canvas. We're going to move and resize the images. We're going to rename the layers and reorder those layers. I'm going to show you how to use layer masks, which is how to hide certain parts of pictures. And I'm going to show you how to use layer styles to be able to add some strokes around the outside of your images. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to save as a Photoshop document and a JPEG file. Now, this is basically how to make interesting pictures that are comprised of other pictures, which is really useful when it comes to being able to make presentations. If you wanted to make really nice looking presentations with different images on one image file, this is a good way to do so. It's also a good way to make wallpapers for your phone or for your desktop. All right, let's talk about how to do this. All right, so first things first, we want to set up our image files first. So I'm going to open up a new tab, Google Images here. And I'm going to go over here to the top right to where it says Images. And I'm going to click on that. So if I'm just on a Google page, you can go up here to the top right and go to Images. And now I can search just for Google Images. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Google image search and I'm going to click on the tab up here on the top where I have this Google Images. I'm going to drag this down and you're going to see that it becomes its own little window. And if I drag this all the way over to the right side of my screen, you'll see that it pops up to allow me to basically make this half of my screen. So when I release the mouse, you can see, oh, okay, I made it half of my screen. Now I get to choose what I want the other half of my screen to be. And I'm going to make this photop.com. So I'm going to go over here on the left side of my screen, and I'm going to make this also a web browser, and I'm going to call it photop.com. So basically I have my Google Images on the right side, and I have my photo editor over here on the left side. This is going to make it really easy for me to be able to just like find a photo that I want, copy it, come over here into my image editor and paste it. That'll be really good to do. All right, so let's start off by going into Photop and making our new project. So once again, I just opened up a web browser. I typed in photop.com. This is a free image editing software that is very similar to Photoshop. If you learn how to use this, you'll be able to use Photoshop basically from training with this. And what's nice is you don't have to pay anything for this. What's bad is there's a little ad right here. So the ad is pretty much how you're paying for it. But just don't click on the ad and you should be all right. The other nice thing about this is you don't need to install anything. So it'll basically just pop up and you can use it, and you don't have to worry about installing and needing admin privileges or anything like that. You could use it on pretty much any machine. You could even use it on your phone. All right, so I'm going to go here to New Project. Click on that. And this is where you get to choose what kind of canvas do you want. You'll see over here on the bottom left, it allows you to change what the size of the image would be. So as we see here, depending on what I want to make, maybe I want to make something for Instagram or an Instagram story or a Twitter profile or something like that, something that has to do with social media. Or I could click right here where it says print, and I could put it on like a piece of paper. If I wanted to print it out, I could put it on a letter-sized piece of paper, or a business card. If I wanted to make a business card, I could do that. If I wanted to make it something that's like a screen size, then I could click on that and you could see, oh, okay, here's like a 1080 sized wallpaper if I wanted to make this my desktop wallpaper. If I got a nice screen, a 4K screen, I could put it on there. Or if I wanted to click on mobile, there's all these different phone sizes. So I could pick like, oh, I want to make this my phone lock screen or something. Well, then you could pick one of your phone sizes here and you could choose that. I'm not going to say that there's any particular size that I'm requiring. I just require that you use 10 images to make your collage. So make your collage for whatever you want. Make it something that maybe you want to print it out on a piece of paper. Or maybe you want to make just a screen wallpaper, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose a screen, full HD, 1080 pixel thing. That's what I'm going to use. And up here towards the top, you're going to see something that says name. I'm going to call this Period 7 Collage. There we go. After I do that, I'm going to press create. And now I've got this nice canvas where I can put my images in. All right. Now that I have this ready, I have to load up some images into it. So over here on the right-hand side, I've got my Google image search. I'm going to search for something. What should we search for? What should this collage be about? What do you think? Star Trek. All right. I'm going with the first suggestion. I'm into Star Trek. I love Star Trek. Star Trek would be the closest thing I have to a religion. So let's do it. Star Trek. Wow, look at all these different pictures. You've got Star Trek The Next Generation. That's got to be the first one. That's what I'm all about. So I'm going to take this one. Now what you're going to do is you're going to type in the name of the thing that you want. You're going to see all these different thumbnails pop up. What you want to do is you want to click on one of the thumbnails, and a bigger picture is going to pop up over here on the side. Thank you, William. Over here on the side, you're going to see the bigger picture. You're going to right-click on that picture, or you're going to touch the touchpad with 2 of your fingers at once, slightly apart from each other. And that lets you open up this menu, where you're going to select Copy Image. You're not going to save the image. You're just going to copy the image. This puts it in your what is known as your clipboard on your computer. It's like a temporary storage location for something that you want the computer to think about. Kind of like if somebody told you, hey, my phone number is this number, 622-5167. And then you would have to hold that in your brain long enough to write it down or to put it in your phone or something like that. That's the same thing as a computer clipboard. It's just something that's like a very temporary spot for you to hold your memory. So I'm going to click on Copy Image. Now I'm going to go over here in Photopea, and I'm going to press Control V. And then it's going to ask me, hey, will you let your site access your clipboard? It's going to ask you that up here towards the top area somewhere in your screen. It's going to ask you that. And if you don't see that, you might also see this little clipboard up here right next to where your URL is, right where it says photopea.com. To the right of this, you're going to see something that looks like a little clipboard. It really looks just like a clipboard. And if you click on that, it's going to say, hey, are you going to allow this site to see your clipboard? You have to say yes to allow this to happen. So just press done, or click yes, I want to allow the site to see the clipboard, and then press done. And then you should see that picture appear inside your canvas. Now it might be really big. As you can see here, the image that I chose was way bigger, or it might be small. It really depends on the image that you picked and where you got it, and also what the size of your canvas is. As you can see, this image is really big. So what I want to do is I want to make this smaller. To make this image smaller, over here on the left side of your screen, you're going to see something that looks like an arrow. Top left of your screen. These are your different tools. And the very top left is a move tool. It looks like an arrow with a little cross next to it. You want to click on that. And then you also want to make sure that this checkbox right here, Transform Controls, is checked. That will allow you to transform your layer or make it bigger or smaller, resizing it basically. You want to make sure that you have this checked, otherwise you won't be able to resize your layer. Alright, now that I've done that, I should be able to click on this, and if I click and drag, you'll see that I can move this image around my canvas. Also, where it says transform, if I have transform controls clicked up here in the top left, you should see around your layer these little boxes on the corners and in the middle of your screen here. If I click on one of these boxes and drag, you'll see that I'm able to resize this image. Now, if I don't hold down any keys, you can see that I can squish this image, which doesn't look very good. And I can also stretch the image, which also doesn't look very good. So if you want your image to look perfect, if you want it to look the way that it did originally, you want to hold down Shift on the keyboard while you click and drag this box in. And that'll make it to where you can actually resize it without squishing it. All right. That's pretty good right there. After I've resized it about the size I want, I can click and drag it to the position where I want it to be. All right, there we go. Something else you can do with the Move tool, by the way, if I move my cursor just outside of where these boxes are, just a little bit outside of that, you'll see that my cursor becomes this thing right here. It looks like a little turned arrow here. If I click while I have this turned arrow and I drag, you'll see that this allows me to rotate my layer. So it lets me turn it in case I wanted it to look better than just a bunch of things that are all perfectly up, straight up and down. Maybe I want this to be kind of angled because I like the way that looks. I think I'll do that actually. I'm going to put that right here. There we go. All right. So there's my first image. Typically what you'll want to do is you'll want to come over here to where the layer is for that particular image. And I'm going to double click on this layer name and just call it whatever it represents. So this would be Star Trek TNG, the next generation. All right. Now that I've got that one set, I'm going to pick a different picture. So let's see. We're still going with the Star Trek idea. Looks like we've got Kirk and Spock here. I'm going to take these guys. Here's a better one right here. Same idea. So I'm going to choose an image over here on the side. I'm going to go to that image on the larger image over here on the side that pops up. I'm going to right click, go to copy image. Then I'm going to go back over onto my left side and press Control V to paste it. You can also go up to edit and go to paste. That's another way to do this. But Control V is faster. And once I do that, you'll see that this layer pops up. You'll see that it starts on top of the other layer. And you can actually reorder these layers. Let's say I wanted this to be underneath this poster here. You can do that simply by going over here to where your layers are. You can see that this is like a stack of papers. This one is stacked on top of that one. This one is stacked on top of that one. If I took this layer and dragged it down below, you can see that, oh, okay, I can make it to where it is underneath the other layer. So you can choose to order your layers to be however you want them to be layered. I want the next generation to be on top of this one, so I'm going to put that one. I'm going to drag this one and put it below the next generation poster, as seen over here. Let me zoom in on that. You can see that I have this layer right here, which is my next generation poster, and you can just click and drag these to move them in the order that you want them to be. That way you can put whichever layers you want to be on top on top. Alright, I'm also going to rename this layer. I'll call this one Spock, Sulu, Kirk. There we go. And now I can move this layer around. You'll see that it's because it's behind the other poster, that it's underneath it. I can't move it on top of the other one. I can resize it however I wish. Remember to hold down Shift when you want to resize something, but keep how it looks. Otherwise, you'll stretch it and you'll squish it. And I'm going to put this over here in this corner. There we go. I might even rotate it a little bit. There we go. That looks good. And I'm just going to keep on doing this. So I'm going to once again go over here to the right side, find another image. And you're just going to continue doing this until you have 10 images that you're going to put into your canvas here. So I can look for another one. Okay, this is Star Trek Voyager. I'll right click over here, copy the image, click over here on my photo P, press Ctrl V to paste it in there, and then I'm going to resize that image and move it up here. There we go. All right, Angel, don't worry. I'm going to do it a couple more times here so you can see how the process works. Once again, after I transfer the image over here, I'm going to go back over to where the layer is and I'm going to rename it. So I'll call this one Voyager. There we go. All right, so we'll start from the top again. I'm in Google over here. I want to go to Google Images. Then I'm going to go down here and search for what I want. I'll say Star Trek data. There we go. I'll find a picture that I want to use here. This is a spooky image here. There we go. I'm going to right click on the image over here on the right side. So here we go. Then I'm going to go down to where it says copy image. This copies it to my clipboard, which is an area in my computer's memory that just is a short-term spot where I can store something like an image, for example. So now I have this image in my clipboard. I'm going to go over here into Photo P. I'm going to click in this area here. And then I'm going to press Ctrl V, or I can go up to where it says Edit and go to Paste. When I do that, it places the image inside of this space. Now if I'm using my Move tool, which is this top left tool up here, I can click on this image and I can drag it to wherever I want it to be. Let's say right there. There we go. All right. If I wanted to change what order the layer was on, like let's say I wanted to make this slightly bigger and I didn't want it to go over the top of these two other images, I wanted it to be below those two images, I could go over here and grab this layer and just drag it underneath those images, which lets me put it underneath. Now you can see that these other images now are on top of that layer, kind of showing you how these layers work. You'll also probably want to rename this layer, so I'm going to just double click on where the name of the layer is right here on that text, and you can rename it. I'm going to call this Data Robot. There we go. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 images. We want to continue with this and just find enough images to fill this up, but also we want 10 images total. So let me find a Picard one here. I search for what I want. There we go. I'm going to right click on the image. Go to copy image. I'm going to go back over here into Photo P. I'm going to click in this area and then press Ctrl V. Now it's pasted in there. It's a bit large, so I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click and drag that square to make this image smaller. Then I'm going to click in the middle somewhere, not the very middle where the square is. If you click in the very middle, you're going to drag around and it's not going to do anything. Don't click right on that middle square. You want to click somewhere on the image in the middle here. And then we just move it where we want. Say right there. Might make it a little bit smaller. There we go. I like that. All right, there's another image in the bag. We just need to do this with a few more. So let's see. I want just the emblem. There we go. Starfleet command. There we go. I'm going to right click on this image, go to copy image, go to the left side, click over here, press Control V, you'll paste it in there, and you hold down Shift as you resize it. Same thing we've been doing. There we go. I want the Enterprise on here. Same process, I'm clicking on it. If you want to create your collage with something else, that's fine. I just want to make sure you have the ability to do it because you're going to want to be able to edit and put together photos on projects later on in this class. You're going to want to know how to do that. It'll make things easier for you. This is just getting you a lot of practice in finding an image like this, being able to copy the image, and then paste it into an image editor like this. Alright, now that I've shown you how to do some basic stuff here, let me show you how you could do a little bit more in that you might want to do the masking that I was talking about to get a little extra credit. So you could just have a bunch of rectangular things like what you see here, but there's other options of what you can do to put images into a collage like this. Let's say I wanted to have this, this picture of the Enterprise here, but I wanted to have a circle instead of a square around it. What you can do is you can select an area and you can make a mask. Let me show you how you do that. So if you wanted to make something like this, this Enterprise right here, but inside of a circle, we first have to make a selection of a circle around it. To make a selection, you can go up here to where it has right underneath the Move tool, you have something that looks like these marching ant, like a box with some lines around it here. If you click on this and hold, you'll see that you can use either rectangles or you can select with circles. I'm going to select the circle ellipse here. Now if I drag out a selection, let's say I want this Enterprise to have a circle cut out around it, I can simply click and drag to put a circle around this one object, kind of like this. Let's say I wanted this to be my circle. There we go. Now that I've dragged the circle around it, you can see that it is selected because it has these marching ants. That's what they call this black and white line here. They call this the marching ants, which basically means that this area inside of those marching ants has been selected. Now if I want to make it to where this circle is the only thing that you see and everything else around it is cut out, you can create a mask. Now to create a mask, all you have to do is go down here to the bottom of, right underneath where all of your layers are here on the right side. You can look down here to the very bottom and you're going to see something that looks like a little square or a rectangle with a circle cut out of it. And if you hover your cursor over this, you'll see that it says Add Raster Mask. Basically this means it's going to make everything outside of your selection invisible. Let's see what that looks like. When I click on that, I see what it does. It made everything outside of my selection disappear, basically making it invisible. Very useful. Something you're also going to notice is on your layer here, where you made that change, there's going to be this little thing that's connected here that looks like it's a white circle and a black area here. And this is just showing you that the white area here is visible and everything else around it has become invisible. Interesting. If you wanted to remove this mask, you could do that without actually deleting anything from the original layer. Very useful. We'll talk about this more later. Right now, just know that you can do it if you want your stuff to look more advanced, but you just get extra credit. It's totally optional at this point. I'm going to rename these layers here. This is the Enterprise. This was the logo. I'm just going to rename these layers by double-clicking on the names here to change what they say. This is good for being able to just look over here and know, oh, I want to change where Picard is, so I can click on his layer here, and then I can use the Move tool to easily move him around. It's a good idea to rename layers because it'll make work for you easier in case you have to use this again later, or if you have to work with somebody else on a project. It keeps things organized. All right, there's one more thing that we can do, by the way. Let's say I want this to have a circle, but I also want it to have a stroke effect. Now, some of you will say, stroke, what do you mean? Like something like you got a blood clot in your brain? No, I don't mean that. I mean a stroke around the outside of the layer. So right now I have the Enterprise selected, this spaceship here, with a circle around it. If I go up here to where it says Layer, up on the top left, and then I go down to where it says Layer Style, you're going to see something that says Stroke. And what that means, once again, Layer, Layer Style, and then Stroke. What this means is it's going to put a line around the outside of that layer. See, what do you know? Right there, it kind of shows it here. Let me zoom in on this so you can see very clearly. You can see that it puts a line around the outside of this layer. So I cut a mask out, but I also put this line around the outside. And I can click and drag to make the size of that line bigger if I want, so it stands out even more. I can also change what the color type is by clicking on this box down here on the bottom left of the stroke menu. From there, you can choose a color, or you can actually also click somewhere in the, you can click on the picture itself to pick a color from the picture, which can sometimes look really cool when you want to match colors. Like I want to match the inside of the engine here. There we go. That looks pretty cool. All right, when I'm done picking the picture, I can press OK, or the color. And now you can see this is a way to make your layers look even better. Even if I move it around, you can see that this can look oftentimes way better than just a bunch of rectangles. So you'll get some extra credit should you make a collage using this. You can earn up to 5 points of extra credit should you choose to make some circles instead of rectangles, and have some have a stroke around the outside of some of your images too. All right, that's pretty much all you got to know. The last thing that we need in order to complete this project, let me get one more image out there. I know we're supposed to have 10 of them. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 3 more. Let me just grab a few here. Three more images. Let's walk through how to do that. Let's take... we got some animated fellows here. I'm going to take this, copy image, paste, resize, place it where I want, reorder the layer if I want to, rename it. And there we go. All right. I need 2 more. I'm going to go find an image of an alien. There we go. Copy this image. Go over here. Paste it. Angel, I'm trying to demonstrate that here. I'll walk you through it one more time. I have another image to find, so let me do that. Here we go. And once again, this project can be about whatever you find interesting. It doesn't have to be, you know, if you're not into Star Trek, I'm not telling you that you have to do exactly what I'm doing here. It should be something that you like, something that you're into. There we go. All right, so how do you find a picture to put it in here? I'm going to go over here to the right side. To where my pictures are. I'm going to click on a picture I want to use. I actually want something out in space. There we go. So I find the picture I want. I'm going to click on it. Then over here on the right side, I'm going to right click on this to copy the image. Then I'm going to go over here on the left side. GIFs might work, but if they're GIFs that move, then they probably won't work. Let's see. Let's actually try that out. Star Trek GIF. So these are often GIFs that actually have motion. If I copy this and I paste it, it will definitely not have motion anymore, but it looks like it will still work as far as giving you a frame of it. So that's good. At least you got something there. So there we go. I've got 10 images all in here. Once again, how did I do that? I just simply right-clicked on the image over here. I went to copy image. Then I went over here and I went to edit and went to paste. If it doesn't work for you, you have to have this website able to access your clipboard. So to do that, there's a little clipboard. If you go over here and look at where it says photop.com, up at the top of your website here, if you go to the right side of where that URL is, you'll see this thing that looks like a clipboard. If you click on that, then you can allow the site to use the clipboard. There we go. I've got all my images here. The last thing that I need to do is I need to put some type of word on here. So to do that, I'm going to click on T, on the capital T over here on the left side. This allows me to put down some text. Now I'm going to click and drag out a text box, and I'm going to write some words on here. I'm going to say Star Trek. All right. If you can't actually, let me back up just a second. You want to go on the text area here, and look up here in the very top of above where your tools are. You should see some text tools here. If you click right here, right next to where there's a capital T, this is where your fonts are. So you can choose what your font is going to look like. There's all these different options of things that I can make it look. I'm actually going to use this for a joke. I'm going to use the Star Wars font here called Distant Galaxy. There we go. And then I'm going to change the color. So over here we have the size of our font. I can click that and make it bigger. And I can also change the color of the font. I'm going to choose like a yellow, kind of like the Star Wars yellow. There we go. Press OK. And now I'm going to click down here with that text tool. And I should be able to put Star Trek instead of Star Wars. Here we go. Now what you can do after you've written out your text, you can actually make it bigger if you want to by using the Move tool, the same tool that we used before. This one that has the arrow that looks like a little cross. You can click on that and then you can resize your text layer to make it however big you want. So I'm going to make it nice and big. There we go. And I'm even going to like tilt this one a little bit too. There we go. So I've got my Star Trek collage all done. Something that you can do also if you have this text layer, you might want to put a stroke around the text layer to make it even more readable. You can select the layer like I have here, then go up to where it says layer, layer style, and then you can add a stroke to this. So there we go. I can make it the same stroke that I had from this thing, which actually looks really good. Or I can change the color of it to something else, like if I wanted it to be a different color, like white, or whatever color I want it to be. I kind of like how it looked before, though, with that blue color, so I'm going to pick that blue color. I think that looks nice. All right. After you've done that, you can press OK, and now you've got your collage, complete with the logo. The Star Wars font is called Distant Galaxy. All right, and that is the basic tutorial of how to complete this. We talked about how you can copy images from this side to this side. Angel, I'll help you out in just a minute. You can copy images from Google Images to Photop. How you can reorganize the layers, how you can resize them, how you can move them around on the canvas. We talked about how you can rename each layer. I didn't rename a couple of these. I need to rename them. There we go. And this one over here is elevator. There we go. Just a good idea to rename your layers. That way, if you ever have to use this project in the future, you know what each layer looks like. You can also click on this little eyeballs next to the layer to be able to see what it looks like when they're not there. Which is sometimes useful if you want to move them around or what have you. All right, what else did we do? We learned about how to use the marquee tool, that is this circle up here, the elliptical select tool, to be able to create layer masks. That is with this little button down here that looks like a rectangle with a circle cut out of it. That's a mask tool. Basically makes anything outside of a selection invisible. And we also talked about how you can create stroke effects around the outside of your layers, which can look really good. Especially for text. It makes text look much better. How do you do a text? All right, let's say I wanted to make another text layer here. I'm just going to write another one here. Star Trek Society. There we go. Our exit tickets are almost up. Let me get those up. Talk a little bit about that. So if I have a layer here, if I have a layer that's up like so, and I want to put a stroke around it, all I have to do is have the layer selected, and I'm going to go up here to where it says Layer in my menus, and I want to go down to where it says Layer Style and choose Stroke. And when I do that, then it will have this thing where, oops, you want stroke, this one right here. And when you do that, you can choose how large you want the size of that stroke to be. So you can see I can make it a really big bubble like this, or a small one to go around the outside. And I can also change the color of my stroke by clicking on this box down here. And I can change the color manually by picking a color that I want out from the rainbow, and then the shade of the color that I want. Or I can actually click on the image itself to specify a color that I want from the canvas, which is also pretty useful. All right. I don't really like how that layer looks, so I'm just gonna dump it. If you want to remove a layer, all you have to do is click on the layer and select it here in your layers panel, and then click on the garbage can down here, or press delete on the keyboard, and that'll take that layer away. All right. So that's the basics of how to do this. Let's just do a quick recap. The last thing that you're going to want to do is save this as a PSD and a JPEG. So let's see how we do that. That way we can turn it in for credit. So let's say we have this whole thing done. I like how it looks. All I have to do now is save it so I can submit it. To do that, I'm going to go up here to the File menu. And the first thing I do is I save it as a PSD. This is short for Photoshop document. And the important thing to know is that a Photoshop document saves all of your layers separately. So it saves all these different little layers that we made. That way later on, if I wanted to come in and move stuff around, I'd still be able to do so. So I'm going to save it as a PSD. I'm also going to go up here to File and go down to Export As, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG file. Now a JPEG will let you see this on any computer that has the ability to see an image, so you can see it with a phone without any kind of special software, but it flattens all these layers down so you can no longer edit just one layer out of the mix. It flattens everything down. So I'm going to save that as a JPEG. When you save something, you want to save it, if it's an original work, you want to take your quality bar here and make it 100%. Make it maximum quality. All right, I'm going to press save, and we are pretty much done here. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you make something really cool with it that shows off what you're about and what kind of things you're into. And until next time,